welcome back to Crawlspace, Tarik. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and thank you very much for the interview you previously granted us, which sort of got us into this subject. So we want to thank you for all your help. It's been great so far.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Oh, we got a really good reaction from the listeners after your interview, the first round. So, yeah, very excited to have you back on and to elaborate on certain things that, we just didn't have time for. It's like trying to drink from an open fire hydrant. This case, there's so much information coming at you, and you're a really good conduit for all that.
What is this, Brooklyn in the 60s?
Amazing.
Just a metaphor I heard recently.
Okay. NPR. So what is it about the car specifically that you want to continue with, or you want to talk about?
What I did about the car is that I took the explanation that was given to me, and I spoke with the owner of an Oldsmobile who's had Oldsmobiles for like the past 20 years, and he's like in his mid-30s now, and I just went to see him and to confirm what was told to me, and he said that it's possible. The exact thing that was said to me by my main informant was that she was taken out of the car, and then there was this tall guy who was in the group, and he got behind the wheels, but because he's too tall and he didn't move the seat, he basically hit his knee under the dashboard trying to brake as he was turning the car around. That's word for word what was said to me. And what I did was I took that information and I went to see the owner of an Oldsmobile, and I said, well, look at the picture of the car. Is that possible that if the car is left in the same position, is it possible that someone who's taller could not reach the power pedal? He could only, or the brake pedal, sorry. He could only reach the power pedal. And I asked him that question, and he said, yes, that's a possibility. So what I think happened is that they took her out. The car was still in the middle of the road. At least that's what the psychic claims, and that's what I initially believed as well. And so the guy got in. He swerved around the car in reverse mode, and then the car slammed in the barn and got stuck there. But I believe initially the plan was probably to get rid of the car, but since they crashed, they just left it there. So I agree with what Greg said, that it was probably staged and that they left the car there by accident. So that's exactly what I was told. Yeah.
I have two things. When you say the middle of the road, do you literally mean like the middle of that road right there, or the middle of the parking lot?
No, I mean the middle of the road, like right when you go from westbound, when you go to East Berkshire from Montgomery westbound, should I say? You go past the barn, and then that's the road where you're going on. But then you drop off, and then you're going on the eastbound side. But the car was going on the westbound side in the track. It was not in the middle of the road, like on the yellow line. It was really in the middle of the road, like literally on the road. It's as if you would pick someone from the street out of their car while the car is in, it's started up and all, and you just pick someone and you take them out. So yeah.
Right. So in its own lane, it was in its own lane when when your theory is this tall person. So we're talking like over 6 feet tall. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Break that whole scenario down. What happens on the side of the road? What happens in that lane? How does he get in the car? You must have it broken down in your head.
I do have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
The only thing I want to say, and that's also kind of something that needs to be clarified, is whether there was a struggle in the car or not. Mark Harper said that there was a struggle that started in the back seat and ended in the front seat, or in the front seat and the back seat. Yep. But anyways, he said there was a struggle, and he praised Detective Brian Miller, who I do believe did a good job in the initial investigation that was done in the case. But the issue that I have is that Brian Miller said that there was no struggle in the car, or there were no signs of struggle. So how does he determine that there wasn't a struggle, but then MJ and Mark Harper say there was a struggle? So that's just something that I wish we could clarify that. But when it comes to actually what happened with the car, and I asked the psychic about that, and this is what she told me. She says that on that night, Brianna got behind the wheels of her car. She got in, and she was driving. It was dark, and then she came in front of the abandoned bar, and she saw 3 men on the road. And she saw them at the last moment, so she hit the brakes quickly, and she stopped, and she was terrified. And because the side door it's an older car, so the doors don't close automatically when you reach a certain speed. And so what the psychic believes is that, or that's what she said that she saw, that's what she told me, is that one of those guys got in the car on the passenger side, got in the car, opened the driver's side door for another man to get in, and then there was a struggle, and then they managed to grab her out of the car while the car is still running in the middle of the road. It's on like parking mode, I guess, but it's still in the middle of the road. That's what the psychic claim. And then what I believe happened is that for some reason that designed guy, the taller guy, got in behind the wheel, tried to probably, I guess, reverse the car, and it just swerved around and it hit the barn. The thing about the car is that the Oldsmobile is a really long car, and the road is it's not that wide. So I mean, if you want to do a U-turn on that road, it would practically be impossible. I remember going on that road even with my car. I wasn't able to do a U-turn. I'd have to go like in the field and then make a U-turn. So the only way that you can make a U-turn is if you go on in a field, or you drop in a ditch or something, or you go forward where the car is found. So I mean, I believe that he wanted to hit the power pedal, but he couldn't reach it because his the seat was moved was moved forward, and what he did was instead he hit the brake and the car just swerved around. And think of it like if you go on a space, like a closed space, like a parking, and you just, instead of hitting the power pedal, you hit the brake pedal, and you just go from you go from 0 to like 30 miles in like 10 seconds. That's probably what happened. And, that's what my informant said that the guy involved told him. And I mean, I have no reason not to believe that. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I think it's really hard for someone to make that up. And Greg Overacker seems to say the same thing. So. It's
the psychic thing is pretty. We tried that once. And we got a ration. But I can see how psychics can at least open up your thoughts to a new way of looking at it. The specificity of 3 men blocking her and she has to swerve. I take that with a little grain of salt, but I do like the breakdown afterward, how a car can get into that position. Do you know about anyone that was in her circle of friends that was tall like that?
Oh, I do know of one guy, but his name was not made public, and he's older, so I don't think he would be in her circle of friends, but he was involved in drugs. And I know for a fact that Brianna went partying to his house a couple times before she went missing. I do have that information, so. But his name has not been made public, so I hope at some point we can talk about him, name him, and say this is what I know, but right now it's not something I can go into.
Oh, so we're not talking about Ramone Ryan's as the tall guy? No. Oh, he's okay. No. I sincerely thought that was who it was.
I actually, going back to what Greg said, and I agree with him, I don't even believe, because the press and the police and everyone just focused on Ramone Ryan's and Nathaniel Jackson. Well, I do believe that they know what happened, and they probably may have been involved in this, at least the disposal of her body, or making sure that things got into that things went in a way where people would forget about it and just carrying people off. I don't think they were directly involved. I think a lot of people that were involved have not been named, but these 2 guys, I don't think they were directly involved. I don't think Ramone Ryan was anywhere near the barn that night. No.
Why is it that this person who is the driver, do you think, hasn't been publicly named?
I don't know. That's something for the police to answer, maybe. But that's one of those things that if you Google his name or something, it's not, you won't find any links with this case.
What about a criminal record?
I did have a criminal record, but I'm not sure if it's the same guy. But I did have a criminal record in another state. So yeah, I'm not really sure if it's him though, but. Yeah, I do have the same name, and it's not really a common name, so I guess I just...
Violent crime?
It was a home invasion and assault.
Sounds violent to me.
Yeah.
Is this in the same age group?
What do you mean the same age?
I'm sorry, was he around the same age as Brianna?
Oh, no, he's much older. He's probably like in his 50s, or even 60s now, yeah. It's like the age group, like it's the age group at the time was anywhere from like 16 to as old as like 55. So there's no like you can't really narrow it down to like, okay, from 17 to 27. It's the age group is much older. Yeah, it's wider.
Her car was, it was pretty, I would say it was at least like 50 feet off of the road, and her belongings were strewn around, like an unlit cigarette, a water bottle, her jewelry. It makes it seem like she was extracted from the vehicle right in front of the barn where the car was crashed and not on the road.
Well, the angle makes me think that the car exactly was swerved around back, but probably she probably hit the brakes past the barn, slightly past the barn, and then the guy got in the car, swerved around and hit the barn. Yeah.
Greg Overacker wanted me to correct everyone and say that it's a house, not a barn.
Did Brianna smoke? Was that cigarette from her?
She did smoke, pot occasionally, and she did, I don't think she was a heavy smoker, but, she did smoke. I know she had cigarettes in her car, on her, but, I don't know if that's her cigarette. I'm not really sure about that.
Because I want to know if she carried cigarettes around or if...
According to my main informant, when the car was left there, they, the perpetrators came back later in the night to, like, sweep out evidence and things like that. So maybe that's when someone, smoked and left yeah.
But that was an unlit cigarette, right?
It was unlit, yeah.
And she was into mixed martial arts, right?
And she was trained in martial arts. She had, I think, maybe like 4 or 5 year experience. Yeah, she was very good at martial arts. Yeah.
Which she couldn't have been a heavy smoker, because that is very difficult to do if you are a heavy smoker.
I don't know. I don't think she was a heavy smoker. I think she experimented a lot, but experimenting and being a heavy smoker, there's a fine line between the two. I mean, it's not. I don't think she was a heavy smoker. No.
Whoever had that cigarette had to have had cigarettes on them in a position where the cigarette drops, either if they're about to smoke or behind the ear or something. They're ready to smoke that cigarette. If she's not a heavy smoker, then they're probably in her glove compartment. She's not about to light a cigarette. It doesn't seem to me that somebody who first of all, it's nearly impossible to do any martial arts and be a heavy smoker. It's just not. You choose one or the other after a period of time, because you just can't do it. To be a heavy smoker, I see Tim saying, but no, I'm saying no. I'm saying a heavy smoker, someone who would.
I just
pull
know
out
that
a
we're
cigarette.
Gonna get emails
but
about it.
I know people who will not smoke for months, and then something stressful happens and they start buying packs of cigarettes for a couple of weeks. So
sure,
yeah, I don't know. I just think for it to be unlit and for it to have been out so that it was amongst her belongings that came out of her car, it seems like someone was about to smoke a cigarette or was planning on smoking a cigarette before the struggle ensued. That's at least what I surmised from it.
Yeah, I mean, she was trained in martial arts, but we're talking about, fighting off at least 4 or 5 men on a dark road in the middle of winter when you're in a car. That's not really easy. And the other thing I want to say is that, what the psychic told me is that one of the men had a rifle. And, when they searched the house on Reservoir Road, they found a rifle.
Had a what?
A rifle. What I was told, or what the psychic believes in, is that one man had a rifle. Or, probably a few had some weapons of some sort, just in case things didn't go wrong. But things went so well for them. They didn't have to shoot at the car. They didn't have to hit the car. Things went perfectly well. So there was some form of planning there. And what I want to say about the rifle is that, maybe it's a coincidence, but when they looked at the search the house on Reservoir Road, where Ramone Ryan and Timothy Powell were living, the house they were renting at the time, they found a rifle. They confiscated a rifle. So is that a coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. But that's something to think about. Yeah.
Something also to think about is, I wonder how many people up there have a rifle. I'm pretty sure most homes, if you went up there, have some form of a rifle in there.
Oh yeah, that is. Yeah.
So with your theory, what would the motive have been?
I think it's a combination of her knowing a lot and maybe trying to get away from the group to like get her life back on track, trying to go to college part-time, starting her second job that she was supposed to start the next Monday. I think it's a combination of her knowing too much, wanting to get away, and then being scared that she would, out them or say something to the police or to someone, and then it would snowball all the way to the police. It's a combination of that, and I think it's also a combination of perhaps there being some sort of not a drug debt, but maybe some sort of drug deal gone bad in which she was involved. Maybe, not purposely, but she was involved in that. So that's something to think about. Yeah, it's a combination of at least two factors, maybe even three. Yeah, but why her specifically? I think it's not really fun to say that, but I think she wasn't as submissive as some of the other girls with the drugs and the people. Yeah.
What do you mean she wasn't as submissive as some of the other people? So that's something that...
Well, I think it was a combination of maybe men wanting more control over her, and she was really not, according to her parents and from what I was able to kind of get a little bit in her mind, she was not afraid to say what she wanted and to really stand up to people. And I have actually in my notes an account of when there was that party in Richford. There was a guy who tried to have sex with her, and she said no, and she ran away. And she that in that sense, she wasn't afraid of speaking up and saying this is not what I want, and maybe that's something that bothered them over time. They were like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. We have to deal with that.
Has it ever crossed your mind that with all of the investigation into her case and looking at her picture, you've formed sort of your image of her? And you are trying to make her world in your head fit your image?
Well, yeah, but I'm not biased, and I'm not going to pretend that she was perfect. Nobody is. And I've found things out, just a couple of weeks ago that did kind of change a little bit my image that I had of her. But obviously I could relate in some way with the whole, the bullying thing and being kind of ostracized by your parents, or well, not ostracized, but like, wanting more independence and, being young. I do have an image of her that I've had for a while, and it changes. Like my theory, I learn new things every week, so it's something that changes over time. But what I would say about her image is that it's a good image, but I'm not going to be biased and, say that she was the all-American girl and flowers and butterflies everywhere. No, there's a psychology aspect there that needs to be taken into account, and it's not always pretty. But my job as a journalist is not to judge her or point fingers or say, oh, she was like this, or she wasn't perfect. She made mistakes, but she's a 17-year-old girl. She's a human being, and it's not. I have my own image of her. I think it's pretty positive, but at the same time, I don't think that's something that, whatever I find, it would really take something huge for me to change the perspective that I have of her. Yeah.
Could you tell us some more about the evidence that's been presented to support your theory that she was planning on coming forward with some damaging information about these people, or was involved in a drug deal gone bad?
Well, the drug deal gone bad is the information I got from a private investigator I'm working with. So he also says that's what he believes. But then I looked into it, and it does make sense to me. And in a more concrete way, what I believe is that maybe she was fronted money for drugs, and then she got ripped off, and maybe they kidnapped her to find out where the money or the drug went. That's a possibility. That's something I thought about. That's what the private investigator I spoke to claimed. I could really go deeper into that. I'm not even sure what I said now is something I can say, but that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying maybe there was a kind of an exchange, and they wanted to find out if she took money or if she took the drugs, and they wanted to make her talk, so they kidnapped her. And they also were afraid that she was moving away. So it's a combination of both events.
How much money justifies murdering somebody?
The amount of money is also something that's frustrating, because all the people I spoke to about the amount of money, nobody could give me the same amount. Some people said $50. Some people said that she had tremendous debts. Some people said it was $5. I had an informant who said that she stole 15 grams of cocaine from them, and that's why they killed her. And there's no concrete evidence about that. There's just a lot of speculation, but there's no concrete evidence. But someone in that area knows exactly what this is about. Yeah. Who, I don't know, but someone knows.
The 15 grams of coke one sounds the most likely. Because, so just thinking about her financial dealings. All that we know of it is from what we've heard of from Greg, saying she did not have a lot of money. This was not someone who probably could have lent a great deal of money to drug dealers to purchase drugs, and maybe she would get it paid back. That was one rumor that I read online, and it was up to $2,000, I believe, was the number that she lent someone. But this is a woman who had 2 uncashed paychecks in her car. She was working a dishwasher job. You know, a lot of people working dishwasher jobs don't just have $2,000 to lend to their friend for drugs or for anything. And she was about to start another job. So that, you know, $300 or so that was in her car in uncashed paychecks, it's a lot of money to her.
Dude, that's a lot of money to me right now.
Yeah.
Same.
I want to build on what Tim was just saying there.
No, that stands alone, what I just said.
It does stand alone. I mean, but I can't, no, but I can stand on your shoulders and call myself tall.
Okay.
This is Montgomery, Vermont, right? In 2010, the population was like 1,200 people, right? This is not a big town. That was 2010. So we're talking that this community, Franklin County, doesn't even have like 50,000 residents.
It's about 30,000 residents, 21,000, I think.
Back then.
No, today. Right? I can check, but I think it's today that it has about yeah. Anyways, it's not a big county. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you're talking about an area. Are people really that brazen that they can coordinate something like this in such a small area?
Yeah, well, that's why I think they had help from the locals, because the locals knew the area better than they did, and that's why, like I said on the first episode I was on, they could not pull this off without any help, without getting some form of help from the locals. And I don't want to say that some of the locals have blood on their hands. I'm not going to go that far, but you know, some people, I'm not really sure if they have a clear conscience or not, and yeah. That's something for them to think about when they sleep at night, or when the anniversary comes up,
or when they try to sleep at night.
I'll go ahead and say it, that if you had something to do with this, and yeah, you have blood on your hands.
Some people there know things that, and it's not just me. I mean, a couple of months ago, they were on the Brianna Maitland Facebook page, not the Facebook group, the Facebook page. You know, the administrator said locals know what happened, but they're content with keeping the culture of silence. Well, I will say this, though. If you check at the family missing page, and this is coming, I believe, from Bruce Maitland, I just want to read what he said, and this was after I was told that he wouldn't let people on the page. This was in September. To all those who visit the other Brianna Maitland website, so this is the one that we talked about, please be aware it is run by someone who doesn't know Bri and is doing it in spite of the family's objections and has blocked me from the site. Please take to the time to voice this on the other side. Thanks, Bri's dad.
So Bruce Maitland wrote that on which site?
The Brianna Maitland missing family page, which is kind of like, there's not a lot of activities. Once in a while, Bruce Maitland writes a message or something like thanking people or saying, I remember Brianna because I saw this and it makes me cry or whatever.
Yeah. So Bruce Maitland, who doesn't comment that often, only when it's important enough, wrote that to specifically say, just to let you know out there that he's letting people know this particular site is not endorsed by the family, and as a matter of fact, he's blocked.
I didn't know that he was blocked, but Brianna's aunt, Tammy Fisher, did tell me that she went into more details. I have the email somewhere, but I can look it up. But she did say that that person doesn't allow the family in.
Maybe we'll reach out and see if he wants to be on the show.
That'd be great. I think a lot of people should be on your show that could explain things that need to be talked about. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that one of the many things that we've learned from doing Maura's case is that perhaps I don't know, speaking for myself, perhaps I was a little too delicate with certain situations, and perhaps you do need to be a little bit more aggressive. I'm not saying anything illegal or doing anything, slanderous or any libel, but hey, I mean, if your name's out there and you have a website that's dedicated to Brianna and it's a disappearance website and you block the father, then why aren't we going to reach out to him? Why aren't we going to say that you put it out there? You put your name on social media. It's out there, you know?
There's a lot of weird things going on in that group. I mean, Chloe showed me some conversation where, Katie Manning, who we have to talk about as well, maybe today, maybe some other point, but said that she was in prison with Debbie Gorton, and that she said that, Brianna's body was wrapped in plastic and kept in the basement for months, which is, to me, complete BS. I mean, but it's out there. It's being said. So, it's a game of cat and mouse. Who's saying the truth, who's not, Did the name Jorge Soto came up in your research?
He's the one who was saying that he was bragging that he was involved in Brianna's disappearance, but people think that he was just trying to make himself look dangerous. Like, he had a reputation for killing a puppy at a party. So just a really disturbed person, but I think that people have come to the conclusion that he was just trying to look dangerous and that he wasn't actually involved.
Yeah, he's a Puerto Rican drug dealer from Springfield, Missouri, and he was, I think, 32 years old at the time, and one of his compatriots, I don't know, I'm just missing my English. Anyways, one of his associates, Donald Soto, actually committed suicide shortly after Brianna went missing. I think it was on her, I don't know if it was on her anniversary or something, but there was a story about a guy overdosing in Florida on Brianna's anniversary, October 8, 2005. I don't know if that was Donald Soto, but that information is out there as well. So that if someone wants to blame me for that, they can't, because the information is online and it's easy to find that quote online. I don't know why there seems to be such a big mystery around Joker when there's no mystery. I mean, if you type his name, you're going to find at least maybe 2 or 3 articles that talk about him, give his name, and say, what he was doing, what he was involved in. And, one of the locals in Richford did tell me that the story goes that, what she says, I don't think that's the case, that's what she says, is that the story goes that Brianna owed him money and that he was the one who killed her.
This Joker character.
Yeah, Jorge Soto, yeah.
Also makes no sense to me, because if you kill someone, they can't pay you back.
No, I know. That's why this is so frustrating, because I have so many details. And I don't have a motive. I have a couple of motives, but I don't have a clear motive. That's one of the things I wish. I
to
really
me,
regret.
The only motive that makes sense, that they were looking to harm her and not just find a way to get money from her, is that there was some sort of personal conflict there as well, some sort of serious personal animosity.
One thing I will say though, and it's being said a lot in the media. The private investigator I work with said that. One of her friends told me that. And other people told me the story that goes is that she was accidentally overdosed. Not at the party in Richford, but that when she was taking, she was accidentally overdosed. Now, the problem I have with that is that, to me, it can't be accidental. If you take someone, you abduct someone at gunpoint, you take them in a basement, what are the chances that that person is going to make it alive? None, to me at least. Because if you take someone to the basement, you torture them or whatever, you assault them or hit them or whatever, or you drug them up, if you free that person, there is no way that they won't go to the police to complain. So the whole accidental overdose, I'm not buying it. I think she was overdosed. I don't think she was accidental. I think that they knew once she was in that basement, they knew that she wasn't going to make it alive, and probably that she probably knew it too. I mean, so the whole accidentally overdosed, I'm not buying that. I think she was overdosed. I don't think it was accidental, because either... what I was said is that she there was a syringe with heroin and they kept shooting her up, and at some point they hit the heart and she, mouth started foaming and she died, and then they took the body, disposed it. But the issue I have with that is that it can't be accidental, because if you shoot someone up with heroin, at some point you're gonna kill them, so it can't be accidental. Just my opinion.
No, that's straight up murder.
Right, and then why do you take the person if you weren't intending to kill them? You abduct them at gunpoint and not intending to kill them?
Injecting them with heroin against their will.
There you go. I mean, it's there's no way that she was going to make it out there alive. There's no way anyone in that situation would make it out there alive. I've never heard of a missing persons case. And, we can think, for example, about the Brittany Drexel case, which is a little similar to Brianna's case, where she was also taken into the basement and, she was, kind of tortured, trafficked, whatever, and then she ended up being killed. But I've never heard of a case where drug dealers took someone in the basement and let that person go. Not if that person escaped, that's a whole different matter. But I've never heard of a case where that person was let go. Never. So it's not accidental. To me, it's not accidental. We can talk about the motives, obviously. We can talk about whether it was planned or not. But to me, she was overdosed, and it wasn't accidental. It wasn't intended, maybe, but it's not accidental.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're very specific about basement. Talk to us about why are you so specific about a basement?
2 basements.
2 basements.
2 basements, maybe even 3. I'm going with 2 for now, but what? See, those are the 2 things I don't know, and that's really frustrating for me. Is I don't know exactly where she was taken, and I don't know the motive. Those are the 2 main things I don't know. The house on Reservoir Road is where Ramone Ryan and Timothy Powell lived at the time. The house was rented to a local, an older man who I met in Richford. I think his name is Gary or Jerry or something like that. I asked him, and he said that he didn't remember who he owned the house to, which is BS to me, but I didn't want to confront him. It wasn't a good moment. So what I believe they did that night is that they took her to that basement. And then at some point, there was rumor going on that she was, or at least that's what my main informant says, that there was a rumor going on that she was there, and they didn't want cops to catch them, so they took her from that basement to another house, the house of a drug dealer, where they kept her in that second basement. Then they killed them there, and then they disposed of her body on the farm on Tyler Branch Road in Enosburg Falls.
Because I know that you don't want to reveal anything that might compromise the work that you've done thus far, but I'm just curious, since we don't know your informant, I guess I'm just concerned that he's relaying information that he heard that might have just been a rumor. Like, were you able to find ways to corroborate his accounts, aside from what he just said?
I was, and I spoke to 2 of Brianna's friends who gave me information that fits in nicely with what he said. Either he's a complete liar who should be nominated to the Oscars, or 90% to 100% of what he says is true. And even if 50% is true, we could really move this case forward. The problem is having someone to corroborate it. But to answer your question, what he told me is that he was told directly by these people at least 3 times. 3 of them confessed, yes, I was there, this is what happened, this is where she was taken. One of those confessions happened at that pub in East Berkshire I told you about. The other confessions, I don't know where they happened, but he did it, and the more I talk about this, the more I realize the consequences. But whatever. He claims that these people trusted him. They trusted him with that information. They told him that information, and for some reason, he either couldn't keep it to himself, or someone find out that he had that information, and he went to police and told them. Now, the issue here is that we can't corroborate that 100%. But I look into what he said, and he really went into details, how she was killed, where, what they said, what the reaction of the people were, where the farmhouse was, where she was disposed, how she was disposed, who was there, what was the pickup that was driving her, what was the model of the car. And those are all information I could corroborate. The problem I have is that I don't have anyone who can back that up right now, and we need someone to back that up. But I trust him because I've been able to back up everything he said, and I have no reason to think he's lying to me. I mean, either he's a professional liar who should be nominated for the Oscars, or at least 60 to 100% of what he says is true, and I believe it is. I trust him. Not completely, but I trust him. I have a problem with his timing a little bit. I don't agree, because he says that she was kept alive for 3 days. Not really sure about that, but most of the other things that he said make sense to me. It makes sense. It just makes sense. I just look at whether something I'm being told makes sense, because I was told information by people that to me didn't make sense, and so I've kept it, in the locker, and I've kept it in case someday it turns out that it makes sense. But what he says makes very much sense, unfortunately and fortunately.